Hi guys! Today I will unravel the truth about cages you can find at the pet store, like this one. The truth is, they are way too small. I guess that's it. That's the end of the video. No, seriously, there's more to it than just they are way too small. It's not all negative. Actually, I do have some positive points about these cages. So let's just get down to it. Here is the first cage that I ever bought for my birds. I actually purchased my first budgie in a pet store. It was an impulsive action of mine, and I got the biggest cage that I could find in that pet store, and that was it. One thing that I realized really quickly is that it's really difficult to train your bird or to try to tame your bird inside those cages. Let me show you something. Just going to come on the side here a little bit. So if I put my hand in that cage, and I mean, it looks quite big, right? Beside me like this, but if I put my hand in that cage, my hand is actually really big, right? Very scary for a, very scary for a tiny little budgie that is not tamed and then is scared of everything. So I realized really quickly that it was really difficult to try to tame my budgie, and every time I would put my hand in the cage, it would freak out. And when I moved to a flight cage, to the cages that I use currently, it changed everything. Now, the other thing I want to talk about these cages is, well, specifically this type, they're not all like this, but I just want to show you something. I just want to show you the doors. So these sliding doors like this, those doors are not very secure. Your birds can actually escape from there. So if you don't want it to escape, you have to figure something out to keep those shut. So that's another thing. Although this is not for every cages you will find at the pet store. Now, the other thing is it's very difficult to clean. So I'm not gonna remove the bottom from the cage because it's gonna make a whole lot of noise, and I'm gonna save your ears from that noise. But in order to clean it, you have to remove the top from the bottom. And yes, I know there is this little, here, let me show you, plateau that you can remove, but it's actually way smaller than the bottom of the cage. So you still have to clean the whole side because there's poop all over. It's actually taking me less time to clean a huge flight cage with 2 budgies inside than one small cage like this with just 1 budgie inside. So yeah, not great for cleaning. Okay, I got rid of the cage. Next thing I want to talk about is those perches that are coming with every single cages. Actually, not only the cages you will buy at the pet store, but any cages really you buy, those dowel perches that are so bad for your bird's feet. Why do I still have them? Well, there is a way that you can actually salvage them. So if you buy what we call vet wrap, you can sorry, my daughter just walked by and I got distracted. So you can get vet wrap over it, which will make it more comfortable for their feet, and you can add different layers so that the perch is not all the same size, so you can play with the size a little bit. So this is what I do with mine. Instead of just throwing them in the garbage, I buy vet wrap, and then I use that for these guys. What I would recommend, though, if you do that, is not to have just those type of purchase, because yes, they are comfortable for your bird's feet, but they are not very good to keep their nails trimmed. Now let's talk about the food dish that comes with every bird cage that you buy at the pet store, and those are the plastic ones. I mean, those are the ones that came with this one, but there's all kinds of different style that comes with the cage that you would get at the pet store. So not that is terrible, but I don't really like those. I actually got rid of all the plastic. My cat is now in the camera. I got rid of all these and replaced all of the plastic food dish by stainless steel, because plastic is porous. So it keeps the bacteria in better, which is not a good idea. Stainless steel is easier to keep clean, and it's easier to clean as well. So not that is actually really, really terrible. Thank you for making that noise. That was the door. Not that it's actually really, really terrible, but stainless steel is way better. Okay, now I'm done talking about the negative truth about cages you can buy at the pet store. It's not fully negative. And what I mean by this is that, okay, so what is a cage for your bird? The cage for me it's a house, okay? So just like us, we live in our house, we make sure that our house is comfortable, that we like the decoration, that we like what's in there. You know, you make your house as enjoyable as it can be, right? So that you enjoy being at home and being all cozy, or, you know, if you're into workout, sometimes you'll have a little room where you can work out or do yoga, whatever, you know? Well, the cage for your bird should be the same thing. It should be their house. It's not a prison. It's not a prison. It's not a punishment. It's their house. So we want to give them a big house. We want to give them a fun house. We want to give them a house when there's full of enrichment, things to play with, right? We want them to enjoy the time they have in their house, just like we enjoy the time we spend in our house. Now, having said that, I could see the smaller cages that you would buy at the pet store like a room. So what do I mean by that? Well, let me explain. So for example, if you travel, you may sleep in a hotel room. You may sleep in, I don't know, like a tent, or those trailers, campers and things like that, which is way smaller than your house, right? But you still kind of enjoy. So this could be like a travel room, right? So these cages that you can buy at the pet store, they're actually good for travel. I don't think you're going to travel with your big flight cage, right? You're going to travel with a smaller cage. So yes, if you travel with your bird, these cages are actually a really good thing. It's like the way when you travel, you're in your car, then you're in the hotel room. So that travel cage is like their hotel room, really. Now, the other thing that's really good is to bring your bird outside. So how can you bring your bird outside safely? No, not by clipping their wings. This is a whole different topic, which I'm pretty passionate about. But you can bring them outside with in a smaller cage. I mean, yes, if you want to bring your big flight cage outside, I've done it before. You can do that. If you're lucky and you have aviaries outside, I have a screen-in gazebo that outside that I bring my bird in their carrier or backpack, and then I bring them outside in the gazebo. I can't do that with my budgies though. They're a little bit too fast and too small to go in that screen-in gazebo. So putting them in. Oh, my cat says hi again. This is a great video. So putting them in a smaller cage where you can bring them outside, it's actually a really good thing for them. It's going to desensitize them from the noises outside. So they don't get spooked as much. They're going to get sunlight. This is good for them. So it's like their backyard in your backyard. Other thing that you can use those cages for. So, when you're really, really sick and you have to go to the hospital, well, sometimes you'll have to stay to the hospital overnight for whatever reason, got surgery or whatever. Well, if your bird is really sick, but you have more than one bird, well, you could quarantine your bird into a smaller cage in a different room. So to make sure that, if it's a contagious disease, you're not going to spread that to the rest of your flock, or just to give that bird a little bit more tranquility. So for example, my 2 budgies, if I have one of them that's sick, I'm probably going to remove it, even if it's not contagious. I'm probably going to remove it from the flight cage so that the other budgie doesn't get annoying, right? So that my sick bird can actually recover better and faster. So it's like a hospital room, right, for your bird. Now, if you're also getting a new bird to introduce into your flock, it's always good to quarantine that bird to make sure that this bird doesn't have any disease that could be spread to the rest of your birds. So again, you could use a smaller cage as a quarantine cage. It's temporary. It's not going to be forever. It's totally fine. One last thing I want to say, one last truth about these cages you can find at the pet store is that you can use them as sleeping cage. So personally, I have cats. I cannot have my birds flying around all the time in my house loose. Things needs to be a little bit more controlled in my house. So but I could see someone that have their birds. And also I work full time, so I'm not here during the day, and my room, the bird room, I do have a bird room where the cats are not allowed during the day, but I don't think it's safe enough to have them out. And especially because I have really tiny budgies and a bigger Indian ringneck that is a little bit cranky sometimes with other birds. I cannot have all of them out all day long, but I know that for some people it works. They have their birds outside, or they have just one bird and that's all. This is their pet and it's just roaming in a house free, and that's fine. For sleeping though, I truly encourage you to have a sleeping cage if this is your case, because your bird needs, I want to say around 12 hours of sleep. I mean, there's some debate about that. Let's say between 10 and 13 hours of sleep, or 14 hours of sleep. Personally, my birds, they usually get 11 or 12. This is mostly the amount of sleep they get, 11 or 12 hours. Sometimes during the week, it's just a little bit difficult for us to go with 12 hours. But 11 hours would be the minimum. And they need to be in the dark. They can't just be in the middle of all the action in the house, right? So for example, I wouldn't be filming this with my bird in a cage right beside me with just a blanket over it, because that bird would not be sleeping. They're in the room. in the dark over there, you know, in a separate room. So if you do have your bird roaming free in the house all day long, I really encourage you to have a small cage just for sleeping. It's sleeping time. Let's go to bed. They go in their cage, they just sleep there, and then they get out in the morning. Just a sleeping cage, doesn't have to be big. A small cage that you buy at the pet store would totally do. It's like a bedroom, basically, right? So the big truth about those cages is I do think that the cages you can buy at the pet store are not fully bad. They have a reason to be sold, if that makes sense. Is that a sentence? I'm not sure. But yes, they have a purpose, but they don't have the purpose to house your bird all day long, all the time. For that, they are way too small. And you should really invest in bigger cages. Lately, so I live in British Columbia, Canada, and I have to say that lately I've started seeing flight cages, or kind of similar to a flight cage, so bigger a little bit. So maybe there's a change that's coming in regards to this, but my cages personally, I had to buy them online because I couldn't find anything that was big enough for me in any of the pet store in my area. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you later. Bye.